be reading.
Hello, everybody.
Hey everyone, welcome to We'd Rather Be Reading. I'm Jerrica.
And I'm Lia, and we're back.
We are back!
1 week turned into 2 months. Yay! Vacation.
Summer
It was like
lovin'.
your Canadian vacation that also turned in from...
I did, because the airline decided, you know what, we're just going to take a break. We're going to have a little strikey strike. And I'm like, okay. So 15 extra days on vacay, that's all right.
Yeah, that's not too bad. I wouldn't mind 15 extra days.
But you know what? During my vacation, I didn't get to read like hardly at all. We had so many activities planned every day, and then the kids, and then the cousins, and it wouldn't have gone me just being like, you know what? I'm just gonna take this like 3-hour pause and read half of this book. But I wish I did. I listened a little bit when I was running in the beginning, and then I lost my AirPods. Had a full-on meltdown. Said to my husband, "You have to buy me new AirPods." And he's like,
I would have.
"You can buy yourself new AirPods." And I'm like, "Okay, I just need you to know I'm buying new AirPods."
I would have bought them. I would have been like, this is an emergency. Emergency funds go towards this.
But luckily he was very, very stubborn and decided to look like over the period of 3 weeks for these AirPods. And on the last day before the flight took off, he found them.
Good.
I know.
And you didn't buy a new pair. You
I
managed
didn't.
without the 3. I would not.
I didn't read. It was a devastating period of my life.
I don't know. Like my AirPods broke there a while back, and I had to literally steal my daughter's. I was like, "Can I just borrow these just for a day?"
Yeah.
It took 2 weeks. She did not get them back for 2 weeks. So she's like, "Mom, may I have my AirPods back?" I'm like, "They're very busy." No, sorry.
I'm the mom.
Yeah, moms need these. Children have school. It's the weekend. Stop it with your logic.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, no. But I did read. I read a fair amount, actually. Not as much when I was on vacation. And I was on vacation, too. I was in Spain for a couple of weeks.
Yes, it was your birthday
my birthday.
trip and your birthday.
Yeah, and I got the best birthday present. I showed you my birthday present. I got a personal message from Ian Somerhalder, of all people.
Hottest vampire ever.
Best buddies, him and I now, for sure.
I know.
He knows my name and
Hey,
my
Leah,
birthday.
Listen, Leah. I just love it. I love his personality.
know,
It's
excellent.
easy suaveness. His hair is on point.
Mm-hmm.
Those eyelashes are not even real.
No. So it was good. It was a good birthday present to get my message from Ian.
What a smart husband you have. Do you know what I'm going to give my wife? A message from a hot other man.
Yes. He knows me so well.
I mean,
He was trying to get Ian Somerhalder to read a quote from my favorite book too, but he does not read on demand.
Oh, whoa, that's too much to ask
Apparently, they don't act on demand. I don't know. I feel like this would have been excellent.
I'm currently reading a book, a very like silly romance book, and the characters, they're together, and whenever she gets drunk, she shows her husband all the hot guys in the place. Like, hey, look, that guy's really hot. Oh, look at that guy. Oh, our waiter's super handsome. And it's like from his perspective, like, oh, she's getting drunk now because she's showing me all of the hot guys in the room. And he's cool with it. And I thought, that is great. I'm going to do that next time. I'm going to make that our thing also.
But did you read anything or just not?
Okay, I read some books that were like small town romances, and then it went through all of the family members, like that kind of thing.
Fair enough.
And they are everywhere, so it wouldn't matter if you read one or the other, they're all the same. But remember I told you about this author, T.L. Swan? She's an Australian author.
Yeah, I haven't read any of her books.
You haven't read any of her books. And you know what? Whenever I'm reading, I'm always thinking about you and what you would think of the books and stuff like that.
Oh.
I do. You're on my mind. And she writes like hot romance books, basically, but they all have a really good like story base, and they're all within a very similar world. So even though there's a set over here and a set over there, they somehow all interchange. So if you follow the sequence of the books, you're going to see other characters pop in and out of the worlds. And I think that's really clever in like capturing your reader to feel like a part of the family kind of thing.
I like those kinds of stories too, where they're all freestanding, but
Exactly.
you will have like cameos almost.
Exactly.
Previous characters, and also you will kind of get to know people that are going to be the next story. You know, you'll see them before they find love, because they will always find love. I mean, they get a little bit recipe, these books, where it's like hot man, very manly most of the time. Has never had a serious relationship, or has had one and has had his heart broken, finds ditzy girl, or very smart girl, or clumsy girl, who will capture his attention for some reason.
Yeah.
And then let's just hope and pray she's not a Sarah from Whistler.
Oh, right.
Or a Diana, which is my other new reference that I'm introducing here on this podcast. after having suffered through a discovery of witches, but I read quite a lot of books actually this summer. I mean, we read The Girl from the Well that you didn't read, that I did with Anita when we talked about it on the pod,
right?
And I read The 4-Day Fling, which I actually quite liked.
I read it too, but you liked it?
Yeah, I did not hate it. And then I read the Just Last Night, which I think you started listening to because we said we were going to read it for this pod, but she was too British, so you're like, I can't do it, turning it off.
Do it.
And that was actually really
zero
good.
Offense to British people.
Yeah.
They're like female narrators.
At all.
They don't capture my attention. The female narrators. I don't know why. It's like this
one.
lullaby.
Once you started, no, this one was very much not a lullaby.
I know, but
not even her voice. I think you would. No, but it was actually really good. And then I read a book that I actually purchased, and I freaking hate it when I buy books and they're crap. Every Word You Never Said, which was like the freaking worst thing I read in a while.
Oh.
And I actually had to, I gave it a 1-star rating and I actually had to write a review to explain, because I feel like if I didn't explain, people would just think I was like transphobic or hating on people that go by different pronouns or whatever. But it was really not the case. It was just not a good story. It was not well told. And it was very cliche, like in the worst kind of way. And then I read Glow.
Yes, we read Glow. I read Glow also. And Glow, although, preface, we read the first 3 in the series. This is the 4th. Yes. It starts with Gild, Glint, Gleam, and then Glow, all by Raven Kennedy.
Yes.
And this is the series about the story of Midas, but then there's a twist in it, and giving away that twist, she is the one with the gold touch. She's also Fae, or part Fae, and we don't have her full story because the author has written it over these amount of books, and
I think it's going to be 6 books in total.
There's 5 in total, and then it's done. Only 5.
6.
It's only 5.
So it's just one left.
Last one.
All right, I don't even know if I can. I was so angry with this book.
But the reason, I know you're angry with this book. You were angry with book 1 too, and I said to you in book 1, there's a purpose for you, going through this book. That's what the author does. Every book after that was, that's why that had to be there. That's why that had to be there. Though, I have to say, and this is not a positive comment, I think that this book was a filler to make money because the series is so popular. She got published by a UK publisher now, and they were probably listen, let's drag this out. Let's do a sort of Slade background to build up the relationship with Oren, and have book 5 be about the actual story again, because this book had nothing to do with the story whatsoever.
But it wasn't just that. My biggest issue with this book was that it took away so much of what Oren had gone through in the first books. And it made Slade, who is supposed to be like the good love interest or whatever, it made him too much like Midas. He still controls her. He says he doesn't, but he fucking does.
Yeah.
And he uses like, she's been going through, I think one of the things that really, really turned me off was that in book 3, Midas cuts her ribbons off. We talked about these ribbons a lot. They're like skin tags or whatever. They're called silk things. I don't know. They grew from her back.
Yeah.
And at one point, to punish her because she keeps going behind his back and she keeps spending time with Slade or a Rip, who's the same person, kind of. He cuts them off and he says to her, "You have lost the privilege of these." Mm-hmm. And this, I mean, just from a trauma perspective, these would be like trigger words if they were to be used. And Slade then not only uses them in sexual context with her, he holds her hands down and tells her, "You have lost the privilege of the use of your hands," which, while then, fucking her right after, which is like, and she's just okay with that. Like, this is fine if he is, and I don't know, like, she says, "I don't want you to kiss me. I'm not sure. I'm worried I'm gonna gild you." And then he kisses her anyways. Like, he keeps doing all of these things. Like, he is not acting like the person he was made out to be in book 3. Like, he is very much pushes himself on her. He forces her. He pushes her when he shouldn't. And then he doesn't push her in cases where he should probably push her, where she needs to deal with her healing and where she needs to deal. This he doesn't give any space for. He keeps her out of decisions that are pertinent to her own life, like the whatever they go to, what is it called, the council thing that they have to go to at the end. There's a word for it.
Oh yeah,
I can't remember. But they have like this
trial kind of
some
thing.
kind of thing. And he keeps the information about this trial from her. He gives her answer for her without consulting her, resulting in her then being kidnapped and almost fucking killed.
Yeah.
Because he just didn't even take the time to talk to her. "Look, this is happening. This is regarding you. This is regarding your body and your well-being, as well as the safety of the people around you. What do you want to do with this?" And I feel like just, of course, this trial, it was rigged and all of this and that. But if they would have agreed to show up, then he would have been there in his role as the king, and he could have actually stopped shit instead of like trying to make his way there. And then also her having to be subjected to the pain of the other royal that causes her pain, the really religious one. Like, she's actually getting tortured. And these are all happening because he is not including her in decisions. He literally fucks her. So she falls asleep. So she cannot be part of decisions. Like, this is a part of this book. And it was so, not even the sex was like interesting or good. It was in there just for salacious reasons, it felt like. Just to put spice or smut in there. It wasn't necessary when it was happening. It wasn't something that you looked forward to. It wasn't great when it happened and you were like, wow, yes, I see why they wanted. It was weird all the way through. And again, we're going to talk about Diana soon, but I fucking hate when people are the most powerful of the powerful that has ever been powerful. It's like Rhys and Feyre, and all of this is like, you pluck this person and you're like, most powerful ever, and then we see them, and usually they're not even fucking good at what they do. Feyre being quite the exception, because she does seem to grasp her power quite easily.
Yeah.
But like here, Slade, he can rip worlds apart. He has more power than anyone. He can do all of these things, and her as well. The fact that she could keep his rot within her, and this was also just planted for the trial. It was the only reason why this little grain of rot was kept in her, was for the fucking trial.
Yeah.
And then, like, the Queen Melina, her story is pointless. Like, we didn't see enough time with her. We had no Like she's
I thought there was going to be a bigger thing.
She's such a bitch in book 3, and then what happens to her in book 4? It's not even well explained. It's not. We don't spend enough time on it, and the whole thing with the other Sado. Can't remember her name.
Oh yeah, Risa.
Yeah,
something like that.
And the love story there, which was like copy fucking
horrible.
paste
that was horrible.
Slade and Oren.
Yeah.
And we got 2 chapters just so she could get kidnapped, so she could get hurt, so that he would be enraged, so that he will go after. Like, this is the only reason.
Yeah. I didn't like that side story, and I think I skimmed a lot over it. Like, this was not interesting to me. And it was very copy-paste, like you said, and predictable. You knew it was going to happen. Oh, she hates him, but he loves her, and he's going to wear her down until she loves him. I hate that trope.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was not the greatest installment of the series, and I think that it is just for financial gain. I don't think that it had anything to give to the story. So, in fact, you could probably skip over that. We read a series where it was like they had a side story that was from his perspective.
Yeah, but I mean, it was also, that was fucking boring. Like, I did not care about him being 5 years old, him being and his relationship with his brother and his relationship with his mom and all of this.
But it could have been a side novella. It didn't need to be an entire book.
It had to be in there, I guess. But it was this book was, like you said, it was pointless. 80% of it was completely pointless.
I kept waiting for something to happen. And my biggest pet peeve in all books, and I've said this on this podcast probably a gazillion times, it's annoying to hear, but I hate it when everything happens in the last 5% of the book. Because I understand building something up, but just dumping action at the end makes me feel like I've read 95% for literally no reason.
Yeah.
And everything happens in the last 3% of this book. And before that, there is no action whatsoever. There's no real story other than background story to develop Slade's character. And it's a side story to the entire series. Though I didn't hate it, but I read through it without being like, wow, this was the best one or anything like that. The way that I read the other two, the second and the third books, it was like I was addicted to them. But this fourth book was not the best. But yes, I read that during the summer, and we both agreed it wasn't the best. But you really hated it.
Some of the smut language.
Oh.
I have some of it here.
Nice. Notes.
That's right. Drool all over my cock, baby.
Okay.
Get it nice and wet and sloppy.
Okay.
Watch my
sloppy is not the sexiest word to use in the bedroom.
Flood your mouth.
Flooding your mouth. Oh my god.
Bounce on my cock.
Yeah, but that's hot.
Yeah, is it?
It is.
I don't know. It was.
I'm a big advocate for dirty talk. But sometimes when I read some of the dirty talk, I think, I really don't love that word. Like, she could have...
And it was so many times. Was it in this book where she was talking about power on her knees?
Yeah, no, I did not love that.
No. And it happened many times.
And you know what I think is very strange in when authors have, like, a lot of the female characters on their knees? They have these, like, thought processes. Like, they have inner monologues about how powerful they are and how this is their choice and this is something that makes them have control over the man. Being on their knees makes them the bigger person, kind of thing. I don't know why that needs to be explained so often. It's like constantly explained in all the books where the girl's giving a blowjob. It's like, okay, do we have like a background of a guy like giving a girl a head job and him saying, now I'm in control of this bitch.
So much power.
So much power down here. Like, no, we never hear that side of it because it doesn't need to be said.
And then it's also another thing that just, the conflux is what it's called. The trial thing, the conflux.
Okay.
When she gets taken and the queen there, the religious fanatics, someone pointed out that it's fairly anti-Muslim, this part, because the religious fanatics part live in the desert, wear hijabs, and are religious fanatics, which is like not great.
I saw Raven actually write about this, saying that she had no intention of...
But it is still... Even without intention, it shows kind of your thoughts on things, you know, like in a little bit. Yeah, because if you're going to write religious fanatics and you immediately go desert with hijabs, then it probably says something about your thoughts and feelings on it. But regardless, if she said she didn't mean it. But it was just also the whole, like, yeah, the point of views and the chapters. Oren got 37 out of 65 chapters. Slade got 19 out of 65, and 2 of them with flashback back to childhood and 2 of his teenage years. Queen Malina got 3, plus the epilogue. Queen Kyla got 2. What's the point?
Yeah.
Osric got 2 and Rissa got 1. These extra... It should have been focused on one person's different perspective. We should not have one chapter from Rissa. It's like, this means that if you cannot describe her from another point of view, like, either give her more time or she's not important enough. Like, you don't give her one chapter. Like, anyways, I found it to be disappointing. I was very annoyed at the end of this book. I thought it was not cool. Raven, not cool.
No, it was not the best one. No. But I still love you, Raven, and I will still read all of the books.
I will probably read the next one just to see if you can redeem yourself from this one. But this was a piece of shit. And yeah. And I mean, I loved the other ones.
Do you know what I read for the first time this summer? I'm looking through my read list. This is, like I told you about, I've been reading like these continuous books where there's like 5 or 6 of them. This one popped up because I had pre-ordered it.
Okay.
And it was book 4 in this series called The Salacious Players Club, about these friends who make an app of for people to find people with kinks, like Tinder, but for kinks.
Yes.
And, which I think is not a bad idea. It probably exists. I'm just not in that world, but it probably exists. Anyways, that's what it does.
dating apps for all of the different datings, I'm sure exist. Yes.
So that's what this series is about, and I've liked every one of the books. And this one, the 4th one, called Mercy, it is about the female owner, and the rest of the owners are male, and they all have different kinks. And hers is, she's a dom, and I have never read a dom book in my life. Have you read one where it's a female dom, like DOMME?
No, I mean, the only BDSM, like, proper, that's not even a proper fucking BDSM book, is that horrible grey, like 50 Shades of Grey, which I regret reading. Should not have been published.
But this is not really a BD. Okay, maybe there.
But I mean, it's portraying itself to be a BDSM book because he's a dom and he's looking for submissives.
Yeah.
So she's very much well, she's supposed to be a sub, but it doesn't. That's not really the way the story goes now, is it?
In this book, she thinks she has no kinks. She's just like a normal vanilla person, and she takes this app quiz that they have, and it says that she's a dom, that she should explore that side because she feels like unfulfilled every time she has partners, and she doesn't have them that often and stuff like that. And so this is like an education into the female dom world kind of book, where she's learning from the beginning. So I'm also learning from the beginning, and I'm like, oh, is that a thing? And oh, what's this? And her job, she had to travel around to other clubs, and then they're opening another club in a different town and stuff. And so she's seeing things that are not just at their place, and she develops her like dom hood. and ends up with one of her partners' sons, which is the taboo. This author, in her excerpt, says that I write hot romance books with a taboo, with an age gap every time. And I'm like, oh, fair enough. Here's your copy and paste to every sort of thing. I like it. I have no problem with that. Most of the time, the age gap is male older, female younger, and this time it was female older, male younger, and she's the dom instead of the male. So they just role reversed, and I enjoyed seeing this role reversal quite a lot. I gave it only 4 stars out of 5 because he was such a goddamn brat, and I hate these brat players who don't give a fuck and need to be tamed and stuff like that. They're all over the place in this world, and eventually some of them do get tamed and do have life experiences that make them not a douchebag anymore. But this is the douchebaggest of the douchebag kid, and everybody knows because he's been throughout all the other books too, because he's the son of this owner. And you're just a brat. You're just a douchebag. And I'm glad that whatever she did with you during this book, spanked you or whatever. But no, I don't love that kind of character. I hate player characters. I really don't want to read any more books where the guy can't give a fuck about any girls and just fucks everybody he sees until he meets the one. No, I hate that trope.
It's kind of tiring, yeah.
No, thanks.
So I read, for my daughter, I read The Summer I Turned Pretty because we actually watched the Prime show and I kind of liked it. And then I read the books and they're by Jenny Han, and I read the Jenny Han To All the Boys I Loved Before.
Yeah,
books.
okay.
And they suffered from the same issue that did, which is the unrealisticness of when you have sex with your boyfriend. Because in both of these books, when the female main character finally gets together with the guy, she will be together with him, almost living together for 2 years, and still they will not have slept together.
Oh.
And I feel this might be true for some people, but I feel it is not really the norm.
No.
And these guys will always had sex before and she will not have. And it rubs me the wrong way a little bit because I feel it is unrealistic. Then I went homework reading or, good books that are intellectual and shit.
Oh, nice.
Workbooks that you have to apply your brain to and stuff.
Tell me
I
about
figured
it.
Since you've been reading only romance, I would get these books out of the way now, so you wouldn't have to, and I could just tell you about them.
Yes.
I read Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield, which was weird as fucking shit.
Okay.
The main characters were Leah and Miri, and I have a friend called Miri, so I had to text her, and I was like, look, there's a book about this. There's a book about us. That's where the similarities ended, though. But one of them, she's been lost in a submarine under the sea for 6 months, and when she comes back, she changes. She can only drink salt water. She hangs out in salt water in the bath. She doesn't eat anymore, and her skin turns see-through. And yeah, spoiler, at the end she turns into a sea monster, and she needs to be dumped back into the ocean. Weird as fucking shit. And then I read Counterfeit, which was a story about this Asian American woman who's married to this doctor, and then she starts making money by selling counterfeit handbags. So basically, she will buy a real one, replace it with a counterfeit, and return the real one to the stores, and then sell the real one on eBay. Therefore, making lots of money. It was all right.
And she brings the counterfeit one back to the store, and then she sells the real ones.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, good business model.
Yeah. And then I read Open Water by Caleb Azuma Nelson, which was really good, but I do believe I would have enjoyed this book better if I would have read it and not listened to it. And it's read by the author, and he just had the most soothing of all of the voices. And monotonous. So I was just I think I slept through half of that book because it was just so nice, this monotonous, very soothing male voice coming into my ears, that I forgot to listen to the actual story. Then I read this, that was not an advanced book, Icebreaker, this hockey book about this gay boys falling in love. That was not very hard work. And then I read Here to Stay by Mark Edwards, which should have been called Man Makes Mistakes and Bad Decisions, according to me, because, well, this was the most dumbest fucking book I've ever read. Man falls in love with a woman, and they move in together immediately. They get married right away. He's wealthy, has a nice place in London, and then her family comes to stay. And they won't leave, and they literally take over their house. And they won't go away, and people start dying around them, and there's all these murders and stuff. And it was bad. It was not good. It was very bad. Then I read The Echo Man by Sam Holland, which is about a serial killer who copycats all of the famous serial killers. So there's like one murder like the Manson murders. There's he does John Wayne Gacy. He does like all of the big serial killers, but it's one person. Then I read My Birthday Present, which was Wild and Wicked Things by Francesca May, and that one was really good. I did love that one. Mm-hmm. Then I read The Candy House by Jennifer Egan, which is about kind of near future where you can upload your consciousness to, they call a mandala cube. And then you can sift through and you can share your consciousness up into the collective. So if you have a memory from this party and you upload it, and then you can see other people that was also at that party, and you can get like triangulate to like who was this guy that was at this party and I didn't know, and then you can find out about them, and you can find them in other people's memories and stuff. Mm-hmm. It was very like the good and the bad of being on the grid and being... That was good.
I read this book that has been on a lot of the lists that we've seen of like interesting good romance books, and they're by Anna Huang. Have you read anything by her?
Yeah.
Twisted Love. So. Have you read that one?
I haven't read that one. But...
You sent me this, I think, before. It was in a list of books that you could read out in public that don't look like what's inside of the book or something like that.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
And I'm reading... What I have done this summer is all the books that I've read, I've written my opinions on it. What is that? A summary or whatever? Mm-hmm. In Goodreads, so that since they're like in series, I can go back and this is the series with this one. Oh, I didn't like this guy or whatever, that kind of stuff. So this Twisted Love one, it is like a super highlight. Everybody loves this book, and I only gave it 3 stars. And you know that what
is harsh for you.
That's really harsh for me. That's a really hard no for me. Okay, the story was crazy. Like, it goes, like, all the way crazy, kidnapping, murdery kind of stuff, and then, like, love and all this. Anyways, it was a crazy story. Like, background stuff, too. But do you know what was the worst part of this book? The point of view changes. Like, from first person to third person. In and out of who's talking without changing a chapter to be that person talking.
Oh, I hate it when they do that. Especially if you listen to stuff like that, it's next to impossible to freaking follow.
Yeah. I was listening to it. Couldn't follow it. And when I would hear like, and then she would say something that the guy was saying, when did this change? Like, I had to go back and be like, it didn't change. It just, she started to talk now. And now this is in her head and it's not in his head. And then
it's like that book.
There's a narrator person talking about the both of them in the room, and you're like, "What the fuck is happening?" That's like when
we try to listen to Nevernight.
Yeah,
we have to go back like a million times.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, what in the world is happening?
Yeah. So you can't listen to these kinds of books. You have to read them. Yeah. And maybe if I read it, it would have like italics for her and bold for him or something like that. But listening to it, it was a mess. You would have hated it. You would have been like, this is not right. You need an editor. And it had nothing to do.
Or you feel like, well,
it had nothing to do with the story, but I said that the MC was a straight up womanizer in the beginning until he completely changed his personality, which you hate too, when all of a sudden this is not the guy that we just got to know for the first 300 pages.
Nope.
And he becomes a stalker too.
Oh, great.
And you hate stalkers also. Anyways.
Everyone should hate stalkers. Stalkers is not a good thing.
Because you're like, why is stalking okay when you're hot? That's your thing, right? Yeah. And stalking is not okay if you're ugly. But she moves to a different country and he literally goes there and just follows her around.
Oh, that's crazy. I don't like this.
And then she like breaks down and is like, okay, I'll be with you. And she was likable, but she was weak until her revelation came and the storyline became clear because, of course, you don't know too much until the very end in these kinds of books. But anyways, it was a crazy story with the messiest POV I have ever read.
I think Anna Hung, I think I've read one of her books, yes. And I think I hated it.
Yeah, you would have hated this. I should have written in my notes, Lia will hate this book.
But I read, and I think we already talked about this when we were on the West Coast this summer, Vladimir.
Oh, yeah.
About freaking Vladimir.
Yeah.
Vladimir by Julia May Jonas. And I only gave
The
this
professor.
book 3 stars.
Yeah.
But this is living still in my head, so I should probably change this at this point.
Really?
Because it's still something. And I've won arguments based on this book with my husband, which is like, this should have a 5-star rating just for that, for helping me with this. And this book is like, I mean, basically, short summary, we follow this professor lady whose husband is also a professor, and he's, throughout their entire marriage, have had affairs with students. And she wanted an open marriage when they got together. This was always her thing. She's had her own affairs. It's been fine. Like, she doesn't care that he's been sleeping with students. But then Me Too happens, people get a bit more woke, and all of a sudden these girls feel like he was taking advantage of them, which he might have. Who knows? I don't know. I'm not going to put a judgment on this. I think there should be boundaries on relationship between professors and students, because I think it's an imbalance of power. But I do believe that there could potentially also be a few consensual relationships there, because the age difference might not be so great, and whatever. I'm not going to go into that. But regardless, the school has now forbidden relationship between professors and students, and he's now up for an inquiry. So he's not allowed to teach anymore, and he has to wait for like this inquiry into it. And it's and at around the same time, this younger professor starts at the school, and this woman we follow, she's like, wow, he's hot. I like him. His name is Vladimir, and he clearly likes her a bit too, like he flirts with her. And he's there with his wife, and they have a young kid, and he tells everyone right away that his wife tried to kill herself.
Oh.
A couple of years ago. Or like a year or so ago. And then basically she starts kind of having this weird stalky relationship with Vladimir. They're not actually together, just they have a lunch date set up for like in a few months kind of thing. And it's right on the same day as the inquiry for her husband is. But she still booked this lunch date with Vladimir at this time. Mm-hmm. And then all of these things happen, but there's like students that want her to not teach because she has not left her husband when he's been accused of improper relationship with students. Mm-hmm. And this is where I've been winning argument, because should she be punished for her husband's sins? And of course not.
No.
And it's the whole thing, like, we can go back, and we do it a lot, I think, as people, because we like to blame women. Men like to blame women, particularly. But as people, we like to blame women. Like, we blamed Hillary for the Clinton affair. Mm. You know, why should she be blamed for Bill Clinton being an asshole and fucking his intern? You know, like... Mm. We shouldn't even blame Monica Lewinsky, who was in a definitely, if we talk about power structure and all of this stuff, like she was definitely in a position where he was way more powerful than she was, and this is an uneven power dynamics,
right?
And it's an
he was the inappropriate one, right?
Yeah, he should have the full blame in this, because it was his call. No one coerced him, no one forced him. No. And he chose to behave like this. And I think we forget that sometimes, because it's easy to blame women.
Yeah.
Because then we don't have to reflect about whatever. But this, anyways, this was... I should probably change my star rating, because this book keeps, like, all of these thoughts that this book awoke in me, I guess. Okay. Are still there, where I can argue these points much better now. Because I found my feminism here.
Nice.
In a very weird story about an improper relationship between students and professors, and also she kidnaps Vladimir at one point. It takes a turn, this book.
And
regardless.
The cover of the book also is...
It's just Vladimir's chest.
It's just a chest, no head.
No head. He doesn't need one. Does not need one.
With the light dust sprinkling of chest hair also, and on the way to a dad bod.
For sure. He's already a dad, so he's halfway there. And then I read the Dark Shores series by Danielle L. Jensen.
yay.
And loved it. And was so upset to hear that book 4 is not freaking out yet. And he left on a massive cliffhanger. So now, wait.
When does it come out?
I don't know. Like in a year.
No.
So I would say don't read them yet.
Okay.
Wait until they're all out. Because they're really, really
I will
good.
love them. And I love pirate stuff.
It's pirates, it's Roman Empire stuff. It's
nice.
Traveling through crystal freaking whatever. When you touch something and you get like brought somewhere else.
Teleporting?
Kind of, yeah, by crystals and stuff. Like it is so well done. And I think I love Danielle L. Jensen. She was the one who wrote like The Bridge Kingdom and stuff. And I loved those.
We loved those books.
So really, really good. And then now I am suffering through a discovery of witches.
But we have to end for today because we have, I'm sure, 30 full minutes of a discussion of discovery of witches.
And I'm not even done with book 2 yet, so I will have more to say. And then book 3. So listen back next week when I will be ranting.
Get ready for it, boys and girls.
About
it is a Discovery of Witches episode.
It's so good to be back.
Nice to be back too.
Yeah. So we'll see you next week.
Bye.
We'd Rather Be Reading is an original podcast by Jerrica and Lia. The music for The Penguins, written and performed by David Allred from the album The Transition, courtesy of Erased Tapes. Please check him out on Spotify and check us out on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram at We'd Rather Be Reading and on Twitter at We'd Rather Read. You can also email us at we'dratherbereadingthepod@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.